Hi YouTube! Today is Transformation Thursday. This was a really cool concept that was conceived by Transforming Melody and Spanky Cola. And they recently have changed it a little bit to focus on how God is transforming you. And I've been gone for 2 weeks from posting Transformation Thursday. And the way that God has been transforming me has been amazing in the past week. I was able to participate in a missions trip. This is my very first missions trip. So I don't have the time or the length of video to describe how He has changed me in that week. It makes you really, I'm glad that I could help people, but what I've found is that when I serve God and when He asks me to do something, a lot of times, I feel like I end up getting more out of it than the people that I supposedly help. The people that we went to spend some time with and help them, actually, the men in the group helped them build a roof on their church because they did not have one. They just had walls. The ladies and I that I were with, we had like a vacation Bible school for the kids in the area, and that was actually a lot of fun. So basically, I went and played with kids for a few days, and I got to see some of the country that I was in, which was Haiti. It's very hot down there. Very hot. I don't think I've ever sweated so much in my life, but I learned a lot of things. I learned, I can't even describe them all. Maybe in the upcoming Transformation Thursdays I can get into it a little bit more, but there is compassion in my heart for people who have so little. There is amazement in my heart for people who are so resilient that, they get slapped down time after time. They have there's corruption in their system. There's corruption in people who went down there to help them. The amount of money that was given to help out Haiti was substantial. The amount that actually ended up helping out the people, the Haitians, was very little. And it's so sad. Their country is so beautiful, and the people, they just, every time they get smacked down, they get up, and they're very grateful for very little things. Very little things make them happy. I mean, these kids, rubber bands make them happy. They're like Pokemon cards to them. It's just amazing at how resilient they are. We made these paper megaphones on the very last day, and the kids loved it. They put them as hats on their head. They liked that they could make their voices louder. Our theme for that particular day was, God forgives me, so I should forgive others. Which obviously is something that I need refreshing in often. But it was an amazing trip. And it's a beautiful country. And people were amazing. And the roof was on their church when we ended. They fasted and prayed. It's kind of a long story, but they really needed somebody to help them out, because when the earthquake happened 6 years ago, their church was leveled, because they're not far from the epicenter. And the pastor used his own money, mostly, to build the walls of the church. There's a school that was next to it, and the school was kind of a makeshift school with, like, wood and tarp, and that's where they meet and have school for these kids. And that's also where they were meeting for church. And they really prayed for somebody to come and help them. And it's a long story how he eventually got there, but in November, they started a 42-day fast, which is something as Americans we don't do that often, or at least if we do, we don't talk about it. I do sometimes. I've gotten out of the habit, and I'm going to get back into the habit. But the amazing part of their story was they fasted and prayed for 42 days. And then they got the call from our pastor that we would meet with the guy who coordinated all this with them. And they felt that was an answer to their prayer. And eventually, obviously, it worked out that we would be coming in July and that we would help them build the roof on their church. And we did. And I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to insert a picture here of the church. So this is the finished church. So as you can see, it's not anything like a church that we have here, but they were so joyful. It was such a service. And while we were there for a week, and we had church every single night. So we had praise and worship, and we had a word every single night. We had preaching, we had testimony, we had awesome singing. And while the Haitians aren't overly emotional people, they know how to praise. They know how to worship. So it was just an incredible experience. But they prayed. They prayed for somebody to come and help them, and God answered their prayer. You know? And it's just kind of amazing to think that our group was an answer to somebody's prayer. That's the God we serve. I need to remember that. That's the God we serve. So, there's so many ways, so many things I learned this week. How to be grateful. The kind of God that I serve. I'm sorry. I'll never forget this week. And I think that I will be coming back. I don't know what else they need as far as projects for us to go there and do. But I think that we will. The pastor hasn't rebuilt his house because he put all his money into the church. The teachers who teach at that school don't get paid. You know, that kind of stuff is extraordinary. So, I wish some of you guys, I wish that we could sit down and chat, and I could talk to you about all of the things that I learned, because the video would be too long. But I hope that I have conveyed how drastically God has changed me in the past week. It is my prayer. It is my prayer that it sticks, that it stays, stays in my life. So, these are happy tears. So, I'm sorry if I cried. But it was just so overwhelming. So that's how I was transformed. So, there are a whole bunch of other ladies that post every week about how God is transforming them. And I've listed them down below. I highly recommend that you go and check them out. I can't wait to see their stories, how God has changed them, both from last week and this week, because I need to catch up. So, have a great week. I'll see you next week. My story won't be as nearly as awesome as it is this week. But God continually and constantly changes me. And that's the kind of God I serve. And I'm amazed that He loved me as much as He does. But I've never been so happy to serve Him. So, have a great week. Have a blessed week. May you know the God that loves us. Have a great week.